All right, so this one is pretty fantastic. It has seemed that France has disinvited South Africa from the up-and-coming G7 summit to be held, and I thought that I should cover that momentous situation. So obviously mainstream media is obviously attempting to run cover for Ramaphosa and trying to once again make it seem like he's the victim and how it's oh so casual. Everybody's oh so casual about the fact that he's been disinvited. But let's listen to the man, what he has to say.
Remember South Africa is not a
take that
member.
back.
My information is that there's been no pressure from any country, the United States or any other country. And the invitation to the G7 does not mean that you are being snubbed if you are not invited.
It 100% means you're being snubbed.
Ignored. And there are so many countries around the world that don't get invited to the G7. And we are not a member, and remember South Africa is not a member. And when we do go, we are invited and we take a message there. We haven't attended every G7. So if we don't go to this one, it should never be a surprise to anyone.
How interesting is that? Cyril Ramaphosa says there has been no sustained pressure from the United States dismissing claims of influence following the South Africa's removal from the G7 summit in France. He adds that the move should not be seen as a snub, noting the country has not attended every G7 summit in the past. While that is true, we did attend the 2021 G7 summit and the 2024 G7 summit. Now, in light of America obviously being a dominant first world country with a very strong economic pull on the rest of the world, logic would dictate if France is holding the G7 summit, who would you likely want to be there if you had to pick? Also considering the fact that, shall we say, South Africa's allies and alliances are dubious at best when you consider their alliances with Iran, other countries of a more, shall we say, terrorist nature, and the whole deal with the ICJ and Israel last year, who of course is good allies with America. You can see that having America and having South Africa in the same summit, in the same G7 summit, could probably cause some tension. France, probably acting out of logic and reason for the sake of attempting to cozy up to America, because why wouldn't you? It's a logical, smart move. Of course you would do that. It would seem that you disinviting South Africa for the sake of cozying up to America and attempting to form an economic alliance with them would just make perfect sense. Yet, the mainstream media here in South Africa would have everybody believe that no, this is not a problem for South Africa. We're quite content with the fact that we weren't invited. Yet it's funny, the government and mainstream media is going to make a huge sing and dance in other instances when they aren't invited, or, when the wind blows in some wrong direction, or somebody's feelings are offended. Yet with this one, they decided to attempt to get ahead of the curve and not play the victim, which they generally do, which I suppose it's not really a smart move. I mean, everybody's seen it for so long that it's kind of this whole idea of them attempting to sweep it under the rug that they're not offended by it. It's getting really, really old. Watch President Cyril Ramaphosa. President Cyril Ramaphosa has been disinvited from attending the G7 summit in France due to objections from US President Donald Trump. And now this is SABC News. So that one there was ENCA. So now they're almost making it as if it's, not a big deal. And it doesn't really have much to do with America. It's not seen as the move should not be seen as a snub, noting the country has not attended every G7 summit yet. So that's ENCA, right? One mainstream media publication here in South Africa. Then this one here is a bit more outright about it. Has been disinvited from attending the G7 summit in France due to objections from President Donald Trump. SABC News correspondent reports. Okay, let's listen to this one.
Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya told SABC News that the reason they were given for the invite withdrawal was due to sustained pressure from the United States, including a threat to boycott the event. France, according to Magwenya, could not risk the absence of a key member from the G7 summit, hence the withdrawal of the invitation, which President Emmanuel Macron personally...
That would also be just like them to actually want to boycott the event. I mean, that would fit into the purview of what they generally attempt to do.
Extended to President Ramaphosa last year during the G20 summit in Johannesburg. He said the process to reset the relationship with the US was ongoing and that South Africa remained committed to engaging in constructive dialogue to resolve whatever...
It's interesting. It's interesting. They say that.
Ongoing, and that South Africa remained committed to engaging in constructive dialogue to resolve whatever disputes they have with South Africa. He also said the bilateral relationship with France remains strong. Shervin Bryce-Pease, SABC News.
So, they say that they're very interested in setting right the bilateral disagreements that they have with the US. Yet, you get the US ambassador coming to South Africa, Brent Bazell. He's recently come to South Africa, and he's been doing interviews and all that kind of stuff, attempting to set right the bilateral agreements. They get all up in arms about about the fact that he calls the Kill the Boer song hate speech, which it just, let's be real, it just is, isn't it? They go all up in arms about it. But yet they're also so quick to make the claim that they want to set right and they want to encourage bilateral business agreements. Brent Bazell, in the interview that he had in one of the conferences, he talked about the fact that America's currently got 500 companies here in South Africa. They're looking to expand it to 1,000. But there's certain requirements that need to be ironed out and need to be adhered to in order to do so. I know talks are still in the works, and obviously he's going to be here for some time, Brent Bazell, before he goes back to the US. But this is the West attempting to continually give olive branches to the government of South Africa in hopes that they will think very carefully about who their allies are, and are these allies actually benefiting the country of South Africa? Are these alliances that they formed with your Irans, with your Chinas, with your Russias, with all these BRICS nations really, are these countries actually benefiting the people of South Africa, the economy of South Africa? Any logical, reasonable person would come to the conclusion, no, they are not. Yet, for some reason, the government of South Africa does seem to have this tendency of wanting to both ally themselves with countries that are hostile to the West, but also, in their hubris, also want to make business deals with the West. They clearly can't see anything wrong with it in their hubris. They think, why can't I have my cake and eat it too? People in the West, the Western ideology, the Western mindset doesn't work like that. There is no idea of, you can be friends with my enemy and then somehow I'm obligated to be okay with you also wanting to be my friend. It just simply doesn't work, and they continually go up in arms about it. This one here, they've done a little bit differently, which I'm not surprised, because otherwise they're just going to embarrass themselves. Of course they would say, oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, it's fine. Well, you know, we'll make do. We're a strong economy, you know. We're a strong economy. We'll be all right. We'll be all right. In the meantime, oil prices are going through the roof. Winter's coming here in South Africa. Chances are there's going to be a whole bunch more load shedding. And it is staggering. It really is staggering to see the government of South Africa, in their hubris, continually make promises to the people for decades. They've inherited so much stuff from the previous government prior to 1994. They had everything at their fingertips. All they had to do was maintain it. Yet they've purposely run this country into the ground in the magnanimity of Western civilization, attempting to offer them olive branches, have continually spat in the face of Western countries, have continually allied themselves with other anti-Western countries, just like South Africa is. Fundamentally, the government of South Africa is no different to Iran, no different to Venezuela, no different to Cuba. They're anti the West, yet they still want to also make deals with the West. And it is just, you don't know what to say anymore, really. You don't know where the disconnect is in the brain with the South African government. And yet this will be seen, obviously, as a racist take. But it's got nothing to do with race, as I've said in many other videos. It's an ideology. It's their ideology that is anti-West, but because they recognize what the West can do, they've seen how the West tends to be pretty sophisticated, pretty first world. Maybe not so much now with all the illegal immigrants running around and stuff like that. But I have seen on X there are a whole bunch of videos coming out that people are getting hot full of it, and they're talking of re-immigration in a lot of the countries, which is fantastic and a logical, smart move. Why wouldn't you? But this idea that the South African government wants to be anti-West in their ideology, wants to align themselves with anti-West countries, but also wants to go ahead and make business deals with the West because they know that the West is sophisticated and they know that the West has got their heads on straight when it comes to economics, so to speak. And then when it doesn't happen, of course they throw their toys out the cot like they always do. And I think this is just clearly the logical, smart move on France's part. Macron Not a big fan. He's messed up his country. Hopefully somebody can turn around. But yeah, I think that this is 100% the logical move. Hopefully while Brent Bazell is here, he can, I don't know, talk some sense into these people. I, to be honest, do not think that it's going to necessarily work. I think they are so entrenched in their socialist, Marxist, fascist ideologies that they have got a vendetta and they're not going to back down for nothing. They will give no concessions to what they hope to achieve in South Africa, which is basically just to make it a dystopian landscape. But it will, to them, it will be progress. But anyway, folks, that is pretty much all I have for you. And I will check you on the next one. Cheers.